Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. We will get into the herb today known as Sweet Woodruff. Now this is a really interesting herb. It has medicinal uses, it has culinary uses. One that was well known, especially in British herbal medicine, hardly used or known at all these days in modern herbal medicine. And I think once you find out a little bit about this herb, you're going to want it. You're definitely going to want this plant growing in your herb garden, and you're going to find a million uses for it. But first of all, it is mid-July, and it's hot everywhere in the northern hemisphere. Uh, it's hot in Europe, it's hot in America, it's just plain hot. It's, of course, summer squash season, and I have been getting questions. What do you like to do with zucchini? Well, first of all, I don't grow a lot of zucchini. Zucchini is not one of my favorite vegetables. Now, I don't mind it. It's quite good, actually. Um, really, in many dishes, I like using zucchini like I would any summer squash, just cooked down in some fat with onions, sweet and delicious. I like to do casseroles with tomatoes and onions and garlic and all that. I like to do some zucchini with like a sort of a pasta primavera, just dice a little up. You can only use so much that way though. And it can be a little watery. I always like to get those young, tender, just, perfect zucchinis. And those, I might toss on the grill. Just toss on the grill, slice them open, salt, pepper, olive oil. Very good. Um, Zucchini with corn is also good. You can do like grilled zucchini, grill your corn. Very nice, very nice. Combines well with cactus pads, prickly pear cactus pads. You can do almost a salsa with that, with some hot peppers. So many things you can do with zucchini, and I do like ratatouille. Ratatouille. It is really good, and it is definitely a dish from where my French ancestors originate. But after that Disney movie, why bother give a recipe for ratatouille? Everybody knows it. Uh, you can stuff zucchini with cheese and sausage. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. But you know what I really prefer, and the reason I don't grow a lot of zucchini, is our heirloom summer squashes. Yellow crookneck, and my all-time favorite, patty pan, white patty pan. It's a scallop squash. Um, it probably originated in France. They have one, they call it, I think it's pas de Saint Panis, something like that. But there's also a Native American white patty pan squash. And I don't know if the two were crossed at some point to get the heirloom variety that I know and love that's been grown in my family for hundreds of years, or if it's just a variant of one of those varieties. We just call it patty pan squash. It's impossible to find in stores. It's it's round. It's probably 3-4 inches thick. and it's scalloped on the edges. Someone said one time it looks like the hamburger helper hand, and it kind of does. That's my all-time favorite. Love it. Now the yellow crookneck squash, very different than the straight yellow squash. Mostly in stores these days, what you're finding is actually a yellow zucchini. And like zucchini, it's kind of bland. Can be a little mealy. The true southern heirloom yellow crookneck squash is one of the sweetest summer squashes you will ever experience. And just simply sliced and cooked up with some onions, tossed into a stir fry, whatever you want, it's mind-blowingly good. And the patty pan is actually a little better. So those are the two I grow. And right now, of course, being in the heat of summer, they're coming in like crazy. You know, the old joke is don't leave your car windows down when you go to the grocery store, because when you come back, someone will shove a box of summer squash in your back seat, or they'll leave it at your door. I mean, it comes in so abundantly, it's crazy. And I wish people wouldn't waste squash. If you have livestock, wonderful supplement to your chicken feed. And I mean, most livestock will eat squash. Anything that, well, not your dogs and cats who live on meat, but I mean actual livestock, and they're delicious and they're nutritious, and the seeds are full of nutritional value as well. What I love to do, my absolute favorite thing to do with these squashes, and it works with zucchini as well. So I'm going to put yellow crookneck, patty pan, and zucchini all in the same category. The only caveat is with zucchini, I'm going to want the young, tender zucchini. If it's an older zucchini, I'm going to do it a little bit like I would eggplant. I'm going to slice it, into rounds. No, you can slice it any way you want, actually. You just want to cut it into a shape that's easy to use. Salt it and let it soak out a little bit of the water. That's it. If you do that, it's going to firm the flesh up, and it's going to bring it back to being very much like a young, tender zucchini. Very nice. So anyway, just assuming I've got fresh squash, and I mean literally the flesh of a fresh squash should feel like, the skin of a baby. I mean, it should have that like soft, smooth, slightly almost moist feel to it. And if it's tougher than that, if it doesn't feel like an infant skin, or like I don't know, the most tender skin you've got on your body, that if it's a little sweaty, okay, that's the way it should. That's probably not the most pleasant way to put it, but if it doesn't feel like that, you've got a tough squash. And if you've got a tough squash, like I said, you can slice them and salt them, pull out some of the water. It's going to improve a lot. I would normally just chop them up and cook them down with some onions. Stewed squash is what we call it. Any of the above those squash, the zucchini, yellow crookneck, patty pan, even the yellow straight neck, whatever summer squash you've got. But those are, my favorite are the crookneck and the patty pan. Just chop up some onion, chop up your squash, toss it in a pan with some pork fat and salt and pepper, and cook it together. And it's going to be sweet, and it's going to be savory, and it truly is delicious. I mean, I think I would rather have stewed squash as a side dish than just about anything other than sweet corn. You can make a wonderful succotash, putting your squash and your corn together with some lima beans. Oh, so good. You can do a million soups, like your Brunswick stews and such as that. Absolutely add squash to them. No reason you shouldn't, but that to me is more of a fall, winter kind of dish, whereas I want my summer squash, at the height of summer. So, I'm looking at different things like that. But here's my favorite. Fried. I still love Bill Cosby's old comedy routines. I don't care what anybody says about him. The man was hilarious in the 60s, 70s. I mean, he was brilliantly funny. Hopefully what they said about him wasn't true. If it was, that's a real shame, because, like Redd Foxx, I mean, look at this. I'm going to wander off topic for a second here, but you remember Redd Foxx, Fred Sanford? He was actually one of the most foul-mouthed comedians, dirty old man. I mean, and a complete cocaine addict. I mean, he was a hardcore cocaine addict well into his I mean, I think he made it into his early 80s, didn't he? I mean, he was in, at least made it through his late 70s, still being a hardcore cocaine addict. But he was absolutely hilarious. Everybody loves Sanford and Son. And you know what? He grew up with and went to school with Malcolm X. Malcolm X, the radical, they call him a civil rights leader. He was really a Marxist terrorist. A Marxist communist. He was really hardcore. But part of his mission was trying to advance, uh, you know, black civil rights. So we'll call him a civil rights leader for now. Malcolm X espoused violence. He hated white people. He hated Christians. He hated Jews. But he was the political figure. Redd Foxx becomes a comedian. Who do you think actually did more to advance their race or bring peace between black and white or encourage white people to see black people as fully human and funny and sympathetic if they had a bias against them? Malcolm X or Redd Foxx? I'll tell you 100%. Redd Foxx did more for black people than Malcolm X ever dreamed of. Why? Because instead of sowing division and hatred, he was funny. He was lovable. Everybody loves Sanford and Son. I have never met one single person who watched that show who did not absolutely love Fred Sanford. And that, you know, that did more than, I'd say he did more for black people than, well, certainly Malcolm X, certainly Jesse Jackson, certainly Al Sharpton. I'd put him on par with Martin Luther King. Yeah. And apparently, according to, some FBI records, Martin Luther King may have not been a very good guy. In fact, as, foul-mouthed and drug-addicted as Fred Sanford was, he may have actually been the more moral of the two, if you believe what was reported. But I don't know. But anyway, back to Bill Cosby. He did this wonderful comedy routine on like maybe his second or third album, and it was all about in praise of fat, fried food, wonderful fried food. He said, "Praise the Lord." And I love fried food. Obviously, I'm Southern. Who doesn't love fried food, even if you're not Southern? Uh, I mean, shoot, my French ancestors and people in the Mediterranean areas of Italy, they love to fry their vegetables as well. It's not just a Southern thing, even though we're known for our fried green tomatoes and our fried cornbread and all that good stuff. Fried pork rinds, love me some pork rinds. Somebody criticized me the other day because I extolled the virtues of pork, and I'm sorry, I like to eat pork. I like pigs. I mean, and we have enough wild feral hogs here in North Carolina that I can absolutely stock my freezer on pure organic meat. I don't have to buy from Smithfield. I don't buy from Smithfield. I won't buy any product owned by Smithfield, aka the Chinese Communist Party. Anyway, um, getting back to fried squash. Take some flour, season it, salt, pepper. Do some Creole seasoning. You can use cornmeal if you want. Either way, take flour or cornmeal, season it. Slice your squash, dredge it in your flour. You do not have to do anything more than that. It does not have to, it shouldn't be a heavy breading. I don't want to eat fried squash that's got like a heavy, like a batter you might put on, you know, English style fish and chips or something like, or a beer batter or something like that. But yeah, if you want to, you can absolutely. If you want to do a wet and dry batter, you can dredge your squash through a little flour, put it in some beer, then go through more flour, or you can do an egg batter, or you can do whatever. But seasoned flour or cornmeal is perfectly fine for me. Pan fry in some oil, fat, lard, canola oil. I don't care what you use. Peanut oil. Use whatever you like that tastes good and you think is more healthy option. Actually, probably the healthiest is going to be beef tallow or pork lard if it's not been processed and hydrogenated, whatever that is. Olive oil's fine. Just don't heat it too high. Walnut oil's wonderful. Um, but yeah, I use a lot of peanut oil, But anyway, um, fry them up, golden brown and delicious. Flip them, fry them on the other side. Put them on a plate, a little more salt. Boom, that's it. It's that good. You can fry your green tomatoes the same way. You can fry mushrooms the same way, although mushrooms do benefit from doing a wet and dry because, they're just not as moist. Stuff doesn't stick to them as well. And then I like to make a dipping sauce, which is really super simple. It's nothing more than mayonnaise, grated horseradish or prepared horseradish. All prepared horseradish is, you got it in a little jar in the grocery store. All it should be, and you need to check your ingredients, is grated horseradish and vinegar. If it's got a bunch of junk in it, don't buy it. If it's got corn syrup in it, do not buy it. But if you're growing horseradish in your garden, or you can buy a fresh root, just grate it up into the mayonnaise. Add a couple dashes of Worcestershire, maybe a little hot sauce if you want it that way. Um, I'll usually put a sprinkle of cayenne or some Creole seasoning in place of salt over my fried vegetables, and it's a wonderful dipping sauce. I mean, you just dip it in there, and I mean, you will look forward to that abundance of even zucchini that you otherwise might dread each year, because that stuff is so delicious. And of course, you can deep fry it if you don't want to pan fry it. You can, I'm not going to recommend you air fry it though. I do think, and this may be, some people may say I'm crazy, but vegetables being so lean, of course, benefit from a little fat from the oil. And if you fry things right, they don't get greasy. And of course, you're going to have a little fat in your mayo from your dipping sauce and all that. So maybe you could get by with it. And if you're a real health nut, okay. But I think if you're using a good quality fat, like some non-hydrogenated pork lard or some olive oil, go to town. Have a good time. I mean, those are olive oil and pork and beef fat, duck fat. Those are really, really good for you. They make your brain work. They help your body produce your sex hormones, so whether testosterone or estrogen or whatever you need, um, etc. And it's a good cholesterol actually our brain is like almost entirely comprised of cholesterol. So when we cut out natural fats, we do ourselves a lot of harm. Immune system suffers. People get depressed. They can't think. They get dementia, Alzheimer's type symptoms, muscle reactivity, tone, strength declines, cramping becomes more of an issue. We need animal fats in our diet, plus some olive oil, and avocado oil is nice, and I really do like walnut oil quite a bit actually. A little expensive, but hey, peanut oil is kind of my go-to. I live in a peanut producing state. It's not the best, but I can buy a lot of it if I want to deep fry a turkey. That's pretty good too. So now let's get into the herb, Sweet Woodruff. Oh, sunflower seed oil is a very good option, by the way. That's when you can grow black seed sunflower. Wonderful. Really, really good oil there. So anyway, Sweet Woodruff. This is a really unique herb, okay? Basically, if we go back to the old books, you got to be careful because Sweet Woodruff was actually a name used for several herbs. Usually these herbs would contain coumarin. Now, speaking of controversial medicinal subjects, health subjects, I guess I should say, that's one of the big ones. Coumarin is the smell that it smells like hay. If you've ever smelled hay it's gotten wet, it's gotten rained on, it has this sweet vanilla kind of odor. Herbs that contain coumarin have flavor characteristics like vanilla beans or certain extracts of oak. Like if you've ever had a really oaky Chardonnay and it's got a lot of vanilla flavor to it, actually your artificial vanilla extract is actually made from oak. It's not made from vanilla at all. But all herbs that contain coumarin have that hay-like vanilla scent. That is wherein lies the controversy, because that's why you can't give spoiled hay to livestock. It is toxic for them. Humans, on the other hand, uh, don't necessarily have a big problem with it. The problem would lie in if you're taking prescription blood thinners. You see, coumarin, yes, it sounds very much like Coumadin. And Coumadin is sort of a chemical variant, something made in a laboratory, um, to have the same blood thinning properties of coumarin if coumarin was like super strong extracted. Okay, so what I'm saying is that in its natural form, herbs that contain coumarin are generally probably safe, because you would have to have a very concentrated, very strong, very large amount to get those serious blood thinning properties that could be dangerous, like coumadin. But I cannot legally say that. FDA kind of, or USDA, I can't remember which one. Let's just say our health officials warn against herbs that contain coumarin. In fact, like tonka bean is one of the big ones. That's an excellent vanilla substitute. It can't even be bought and sold for human consumption legally. But bottom line is, unless you're taking prescription blood thinners, okay, I can't say what you should do. I can say unless I was taking prescription blood thinners, I wouldn't worry about coumarin containing herbs. If I was on Coumadin or other prescription blood thinners that are like warfarin, which is actually so dangerous it's used as a rat poison, yeah, I might be wary of coumarin containing herbs. But I'm not. I don't. I pray to God I never am. So now let's look at what we're actually going to talk about in terms of sweet woodruff. Okay, that is Gallium odoratum. Now, Gallium is the same family as like lady's bedstraw. I mean, very common, very safe, generally regarded herb. This one has more of that vanilla type scent. And so while I've given you a little caveat, just know that I disregard said caveat, but I'm not telling you what to do. You do what you think is best for your health. Um, the herb is mentioned in several old herbals. Was very popular in the Middle Ages. You got to remember, this is before people discovered the New World. This is before they started going to South America and such, and this is before they discovered the vanilla bean. So they were getting their vanilla flavor very much from herbs called sweet woodruff. Rodale Herb book tells us that sweet woodruff was used in the 14th century in Scandinavia and England to make an herb water for cordials. It was often included in, herbed wines and liqueurs. In Germany, as early as the 13th century, the herb was used to flavor May wine. Throughout the Middle Ages, woodruff used to be hung in churches and placed in boxes with lavender and roses on special days such as St. Peter's Day and St. Barnabas Day. Uh, the scent, to me it smells, I'll tell you, more than vanilla or hay, it actually smells like sweetgrass. If you've ever, I don't know, maybe y'all haven't been around a lot of sweetgrass. There's a big tradition down in Gullah Island, Charleston, South Carolina, several coastal areas actually, where folks would weave baskets out of sweetgrass. Several of the Plains Indian tribes use a lot of sweetgrass as smudges and such, like incense, religious and medicinal purposes. I've been around a lot of sweetgrass, and it's a wonderful scent. To me, it's actually one of my favorite smells. And to me, that's what sweet woodruff really smells like, is sweetgrass. A first reference in the old herbals for sweet woodruff comes from Gerard, writing in the 1500s, who believed that the plant was mentioned by Pliny, although we can't be sure of his accuracy because well, botanists actually were not. There was a lot of criticism from botanists for Gerard. He was not always the best with his Latin and his plant identifications. So um, his his book, of course, is classic. It's beautifully written, and it used the woodcuts that he actually kind of plagiarized from a Dutch botanist. But the illustration does appear to be Gallium odoratum, so we're gonna go with that. We're gonna say he probably was right about everything he said about the herb, except maybe that Pliny had used it, because we can't prove that. He says most have taken woodruff to be Pliny's Alyssos, Alyssos, which, as he saith, doth differ from erythrandium and garden matter. I'm not going to get into that. We don't even know if he's talking about the same thing. And my tongue's going to get twisted on a bunch of Shakespearean English right now, Elizabethan type stuff. He said, of the virtues, as he would put it, of sweet woodruff, it is reported to be put into wine to make a man merry. It is good for the heart and the liver. It prevaileth in wounds. He means it helps heal wounds. He didn't have a lot to say about it, but he found it useful, and it was usually infused in wines. Culpeper was more specific, and he probably did nail it because he was a little bit better educated. He said, and he describes the growth habit and all that, so we can be pretty sure. But the virtues, he said, woodruff is accounted nourishing and restorative, and good for weakly consumptive people. It opens obstructions of the liver and the spleen, and is said to be a provocative and venery. John Kehoe was very familiar with the herb. He wrote the Irish herbal tradition in the 1700s, and he said it is hot and dry nature. He said it was good for healing wounds, so gives a little credibility to Gerard. He said it was good for healing wounds if bruised and then applied, and also good in curing boils and inflammation. If it is drunk with wine, it is good for the heart and useful against inflammations of the liver and obstructions of the gallbladder. Now, Miss Grieve really clears up all the confusion. By 1930s, our taxonomy had gotten clear enough, so we know exactly what plant, and it is the Gallium odorata, also known as asperula. Asperula is another name for the same plant. She said the sweet woodruff was a lover of woods and shady places, deep green foliage, etc. And that's where you'll find it if you look for it in the wild. And you will probably find it in the wild. In a minute, we'll get to someone who found it in, I think, Central Park. But anyway, she says the herb had the name of the herb had both German and French origin. And she gives a little information about how to cultivate it, and she talks about the chemical constituents. She says the agreeable odor of sweet woodruff is due to a crystalline chemical principle called coumarin, which is used in perfumery, not only on account of its own fragrance, but for its property of fixing other odors. It is the odorous principle also present in melliot, tonka beans, and various other plants belonging to the Leguminaceae, or the bean family, essentially, and to the Orchidaceae, so like the vanilla bean, which is actually the fruit of an orchid that grows in trees. She goes on and talks about how it can be used as a flavoring and a fragrance in everything from perfumes to snuffs, fancy snuffs even, tobacco, and of course vanilla flavors in tobacco are sought after. I mean, by cigar smokers, and I can see where that would be very, very useful in flavoring cigars. She says of the medicinal actions, woodruff was much used as medicine in the Middle Ages. The fresh leaves being applied to cuts and wounds were said to have a healing effect, and formerly a strong decoction of the herb was used as a cordial and stomachic. It is also said to be used for removing biliary obstructions of the liver. So again, good for the liver, good for the stomach, often infused in wines. When the plant is newly gathered, and this is very interesting, it has but little odor, but when dried, it has a moist, refreshing scent of new mown hay, which is retained for years. To me, it's more like sweetgrass, but I definitely do get that new mown hay or spoiled hay actually scent, but very much like vanilla as well. The flowers are very sweet, as is the rest of the herb, being made into garlands or bundles, hung in houses in the heat of summer. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really good. It would have been used a lot in times when people didn't bathe a lot and there was a lot of bad odors and they didn't have, indoor plumbing. You had chamber pots and such as that. So people were very big into sweetly, pleasantly scented herbs. One of the main reasons roses became so popular, actually. Um, in Germany, the May wine was made by steeping fresh sprigs of woodruff in Rhine wine. Rhine is a delightful. It's hard to find the old varietals of wine. My parents had a grocery store that specialized in the import of wine and cheese. So the wines I grew up on were a lot of the Bordeaux's and the Rhine wines and the Chiantis and these you know, signature blended wines from a region of Europe, as opposed to now we just have these varietal wines. Like you go in, there's Chardonnay, there's Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, whatever. The wines of like the old Burgundies and such, especially the German wines, were far more. They were less assertive. Like a Rhine wine would have been mildly sweet, a little acidic, very drinkable wine with food. So if you think of a wine that's not overly assertive in character, a Rhine wine would be far less assertive. So that's an excellent wine, and that's what the old herbalists, especially in the Germanic tradition, mainly used for infusing herbs. It's almost like a base. So they put in these herbs, they put in spices, they put in seasonings, and they come up with something like vermouth, a classic medicinal wine that's now used to mix martinis and cocktails. On a hot day like we've been having, let me tell you, really good tip. It's like heresy to put ice in wine. You never buy good wine and put ice in it. But on a really hot July afternoon, few things are better than sweet vermouth over ice with a twist of lemon, or dry sherry over ice with a twist of lemon. You get a little salty ham, some blue cheese, good salad. Yeah, that's good eating right there. Really good eating. Some sweet corn fresh off the grill. Yeah, you're going to love that. If you never tried it, seriously, sweet vermouth, dry vermouth's good, but sweet vermouth's actually better in the summertime. Just over ice. And if you wanted to mix in a little soda water, you can do that. Very, very refreshing. Just really better than any. I mean, I don't drink soft drinks. I don't drink Coca-Cola, Pepsi, anything like that. Yes, I know that's unsouthern, but I don't want, diabetes, heart disease, etc. I enjoy, some sweet vermouth or some dry sherry is an absolute favorite of mine on a hot summer day with a slice of lemon over ice. Nowhere near as sweet as like sangria and different like wine punches that people enjoy. But hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Anyway, so yeah, I'd say some sweet woodruff and some Rhine wine would be fantastic on a day like today, where it's hot. Have I said that enough? It's hot. She said the dried herb may be kept among linen like lavender to preserve it from insects. And she mentions how it was used in churches and certain saints' feast days. In fact, for St. Barnabas Day and St. Peter's Day, bunches of woodruff, lavender, and roses were used. And were also used for those who could afford it for stuffing mattresses. I mean, it's something we take for granted now, but mattresses used to be stuffed with a variety of things. And if you could afford it, stuffing aromatic flowers and herbs into your mattress would not only make for a more pleasant night's sleep. I mean, the sleep-inducing qualities of lavender, hops, and all such as that were often used in pillows, but would keep bugs out. Those would keep your bed bugs out. So those who could afford it, plants like that were in high demand. So we've identified the herb and the property that gives it the name of sweet. That's the coumarin. Well, anyway, so I kind of come from the school that says that coumarin containing herbs are not to be feared. But I'm going to give you the warning from Plants for Future, and this is what you're going to get out of like the physician's desk reference for herbal medicine, and et cetera, right? Sweet woodruff was widely used in herbs in herbal medicine during the Middle Ages, gaining a reputation as an external application to wounds, cuts, and also taken internally for the treatment of digestive and liver problems. In current-day herbalism, it is mainly valued for its tonic, diuretic, and anti-inflammatory effect. The leaves are antispasmodic, cardiac, meaning good for the chest and the heart, diaphoretic, helps with fever, diuretic, removes excess fluid, sedative even. All right. And infusion is used in the treatment of insomnia and nervous tension, varicose veins, biliary obstructions, that means obstructions of the liver, bile ducts especially, hepatitis and jaundice. Um, Here we go. Um, some reports say that it should be used with caution, while others say it is entirely safe. I think that's a wise way to put it. Excessive doses can produce dizziness and symptoms of poisoning. So I don't use excessive doses. I would suggest you not use excessive doses of any herb, really. The dried plant contains coumarins, and these act to prevent the clotting of blood. Though in excessive doses, it can cause internal bleeding. That's why, any blood thinner, I don't care if it's Coumadin as opposed to coumarin, warfarin especially, which can be absolutely deadly in just a slightly large amount, or any other blood thinner, should not be combined with herbs that are coumarin containing. That would be the advice I would give if I were one to give advice. Don't combine them. Yeah, I think that's a safe way to go. The plant is grown commercially as a source of coumarin, used to make an anticoagulant drug. Do not use this remedy if you are taking conventional medicine for circulatory problems, or if you're pregnant, especially. A number of the species in this genus contain aspergilloside. I cannot say that word. Oh my gosh. Aspergilloside. That's as good as I'm going to get. A substance that produces coumarin and gives the scent of new mown hay as the plant dries. This compound, whatever it is, can be converted into prostaglandins, hormone-like compounds that stimulate the uterus and affect blood vessels, making the genus of great interest to the pharmaceutical industry. A homeopathic remedy made from the plant is used in the treatment of inflammations of the uterus. By happy coincidence, a friend forwarded me an article on the culinary use of sweet woodruff from a blogger named, the blog is called Forager Chef. The blogger is Alan Burgo. I thought this was great. I'm just going to read a little bit to you from it. Let's see, what was the title of this article? Wild vanilla extract. I think this is brilliant, and I can't wait to try this. I'm absolutely going to do this. I actually recently bought a large quantity, well, not a large quantity, but large for me, more than I can use in several years, of Mexican vanilla beans. And so I made a lot of vanilla extract and vanilla sugar, and I'm good on vanilla for a while, but I definitely do want to try this. And look, if you've never actually made your own vanilla extract, give it a shot. I mean, you can go on whatever your favorite buying platform is online. I mean, I got mine from a seller on eBay that I had worked with before on some other things, and felt like it was a good seller, and I was very pleased with the quality. And I got some vanilla beans, put them in a jar, covered them with vodka, set it in the cabinet for 2 months. Fantastic. I got a quart of vanilla for okay, put the vanilla beans and vodka together. I'm gonna say $5 a pint, so $10 for a quart, and you know, real vanilla extract at the store, which is nowhere near as good a quality. I mean, I've got actual vanilla beans in here that I can take out and scrape a little of the seeds out and add to vanilla ice cream, which is one of my favorite things, really. Anyway, this stuff's delicious. And, $5 a pint, $10 a quart, and in the grocery store you're going to pay $10 for what, 2 ounces? Crazy. So, I mean, do make your own vanilla extract. There's absolutely no reason you should ever buy it. Anyway, um, the whole beans, now the Mexican vanilla beans, I think have just as good a flavor, but they're not considered to be the nicest. And is it Madagascar, I think, is where the most expensive ones come from? $300 a pound. So crazy. I mean, even if Madagascar vanilla is, more potent than Mexican vanilla, the but just use double the Mexican vanilla beans. I mean, you're still going to save a fortune if you make your own. Anyway, but this guy is talking about how vanilla is really expensive, so he decided to look for other alternatives like tonka bean and sweet woodruff. And he says, if only I'd known then what I knew now. Well, don't we all know that? Don't we all know that feeling? Anyway, um, during the 3 years I spent writing and researching my book, I started working with the plant Gallium trifolium, or sweet woodruff, and fell in love with it, having a sweet woodruff panna cotta in its heyday in Minneapolis, made by his friend, Chef Jim Christiansen, well-known chef. Anyway, yeah, panna cotta's good anyway, you look at it, but I can definitely see using gallium instead of vanilla flavoring. But he just goes on and talks about how the color was fantastic, the scent was fantastic, the flavor was fantastic, but he didn't know how to find it. He said, I couldn't find any suppliers, local or otherwise, that sold sweet woodruff. And there's a reason for that. It's because of that coumarin. The government doesn't like it to be sold for human consumption. You're probably going to have to grow this one yourself. He said, I thought I knew most of the common wild plants in the metro area worth picking, but I'd never heard of anyone harvesting sweet woodruff. So I did some digging, and turns out it was growing right there, right? In the same family as bedstraw and all that. And he learned to identify it, and he went to the city park, and he got some. He said about, when he first picked it, it just smelled like regular old cleavers. About 20 minutes later, the smell hit my nose. The aroma was incredible, sort of a combination of fresh grass mixed with vanilla. That's a very good description. I knew I'd found the plant. It remains one of the strongest aromas from any wild plant I've ever experienced, and the entire top floor of my apartment building smelled like vanilla for a solid 24 hours after drying the bagful that he picked. Why does it smell like vanilla? Well, it's coumarin. He did a lot of research. This is really good. Check out this guy's blog. What was it again? It was called Forager Chef. His name is Alan Burgo. Definitely look for what he got on Sweet Woodruff. He says, Monica Wilde, a talented forager I know in passing from Scotland, breaks down the safety of Sweet Woodruff, which is interchangeable with sweet gallium for all culinary purposes, in her post on the plant. Okay, that's worth reading as well. He goes on and talks about the medicinal effects we've already talked about. Then he says, what is fascinating to me is that ever since 1954, coumarin-containing products in the United States have been illegal to sell. The tonka bean was one of the first ones outlawed. Why? Why would this be? Is it because they could be blood thinning and could be slightly toxic, especially if combined with prescription blood thinners? That's what they're going to say. But, if you drink too much water, it will kill you. They have not tried to outlaw water yet. If you drink too much alcohol, it will kill you. They still sell alcohol. Why would they not sell coumarin-containing products? Well, could it be that the vanilla and spice industry has had put a few donations into some congressmen's pockets? Yeah, could be. Sweet gallium and sweet woodruff, to my knowledge, are currently not illegal, and not regulated at all. Well, because tonka bean was actually used as a major vanilla substitute. Most people that aren't herbalists don't even know about Sweet Woodruff, but you're going to have a very hard time finding it because so many herbalists have been warned off of it. You're probably going to have to grow it or look for it. He does include the warning that if Sweet Woodruff becomes as well known as tonka bean, which was once very popular among chefs, it probably would fall under the ban. But right now the government just doesn't know about woodruff that much. So he says the nice part about being a forager, though, is that those problems aren't yours, and isn't that great? I love to collect plants in the wild. I use sassafras and many plants that are pretty much impossible to buy because of government regulations, comfrey, various ones. And anyway, before the ban, culinary cumin was used to flavor all kinds of things, from cream soda to vanilla for vanilla extract, and still is in Mexico. That's mainly tonka bean. If people were dying from eating whipped cream scented with small amounts of culinary cumin, I think we'd have seen some examples by now, although that didn't stop the FDA from confiscating tonka beans from the restaurant Alenia in 2006. So FDA is still enforcing this ridiculous law. As many laws are. We have far too many laws. What was the quote? Is it Jefferson who said, where there are many laws, there are many outlaws? The more laws you have on the books, the more criminals you have. So what do we know about Sweet Woodruff? We know that botany can be confusing. We know that there have been many plants called by the wrong name, but we finally settled on the right herb, which is the odorata. We know this herb has many useful medicinal properties. We know it has centuries of use, pointing to its efficacy and safety within reason. We also know it is useful as a culinary herb. Although it is considered very difficult to grow from seed, Sweet Woodruff is well worth the effort of a few hit and miss growing experiments. And actually not that hard to find in the wild, so one to look for. An extract of it may be illegal to sell. For home use, though, I certainly plan to use it. And I'm going to get going in the garden just to have on hand. I mean, you never know when the grid's going to go down or we're going to get another COVID lockdown and I won't be able to buy vanilla flavoring. The only question left for me is to start experimenting infusing it in wines. I want to see why it was thought to be so good in that Rhine wine. I mean, we know that oak barrels give wines a nice oaky flavor. We know that oaky flavor is the perfect complement to like spring asparagus or buttered sweet corn. If I can get some, if I can make some homemade wines from maybe some wild grapes or some muscadines or such, and infuse them with nice oaky vanilla flavors from Sweet Woodruff, hey, all the better. And to have wine that's actually good for the liver, hey, why not, right? So anyway, y'all, that wraps up today's show. Try to stay cool, and I'll talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.